The Taming of Coyote, Chapter 29. Sonia rested as a heap on her bed. She had long since cried herself to sleep. There were few dreams. She forced any inkling of them away, as they would only depress her from the nostalgia, or from the horrible realizations. She missed the peaceful and tranquil existence Coyote had offered her. She never had bad dreams with him. Soon, in order to save her feelings, she had forced her sleep to render nothing but a blank darkness. Slowly, Sonia pried her eyes open. What was that noise? It sounded like something was scratching at her window. Up she got and peered out to investigate. Then she opened it to get a better look. In the next instant, up popped Ezra. Sonia jumped back with a start. "Ezra!" she whispered. "What are you doing here? I told you to stay in the woods. What if someone sees you?" Ezra hopped onto the sill and into the bedroom. Sonia let out a gasp and a squeak. "Ezra, no!" He shook himself off. After all, it was raining outside, just as it had been predicted. When he felt he had relieved himself of most of the rainwater, he hopped onto her bed. He sat down and smiled wide like an obedient puppy. Sonia hesitated to react at first, but eventually she had to let out a quiet laugh. "I don't know what I'm ever going to do with you." She approached him and scratched behind his ear. He very much enjoyed it. Once she sat down beside him, she wrapped her arms about his neck in a hug. He didn't seem to mind such affection in the least. "Ezra, what am I going to do? This is a complete disaster. This is not the sort of thing I wanted to come home to. I miss Coyote. I miss that house in the middle of the woods. I miss the animals and the pixies. Why did he make me come back here? Doesn't he like me anymore?" Ezra had no answer. There was no way for him, or anyone for that matter, to know Coyote's thoughts, or the process in which they worked. However, Ezra knew his own. He leaned over and licked her face. He let out a whimper. He wanted to make everything all better, but he didn't know how. He wasn't even sure what he was trying to fix. It only made him whimper and groan some more. "I wonder what he's doing. Is he thinking about me, do you think?" No answer came to her. Ezra had none to give. When Sonia settled back on the bed, Ezra settled beside her. He wasn't Coyote, but he was determined to stay by her side. Cockcrow came too soon. Sonia wanted more sleep. She could hear Aunt Esther shuffling about in Uncle Homer's heavy boots. Suddenly she jolted up with a gasp. "Ezra, hide!" The Coyote was startled. He hopped off the bed and looked around frantically. "Hurry up, Ezra! Uncle Homer is coming!" There was no other or better option left to him. He got on his belly and squeezed himself under her bed. The door of Sonia's bedroom opened, just as Ezra pulled his bushy tail close to his body. He wasn't out of danger yet, however. Dust bunnies brushed against his nose, and he fought the urge to sneeze. He tried to paw at his muzzle and avoid making any noise. "Come on, sleepyhead, rise and shine. You've got a really special day ahead of you." Sonia frowned. "Uncle Homer, what if I don't want to marry Lord Grundle? He's creepy." "Nonsense, he's a fine man. He's just what you need. Give it time. You'll learn to love him." That statement sent chills up her spine. It almost reminded her of Coyote and Lorraine. Surely, Coyote couldn't have planned this. Was this the reason that he had wanted to send her away? The thought made her heart sink. She had grown so fond of him. Didn't he feel anything for her at all? She lowered her head. If that was what he wanted. "Yes, sir." "Good girl!" he cheered. "Get cleaned up. Put on your Sunday best. You have to look like an angel when you present yourself to him." "Yes, sir," she replied sadly. Uncle Homer made his retreat, and the door shut behind him. Sonia let out a sigh and faced the bed. "I don't want to marry Lord Grundle. Why is Coyote doing this to me?" Finally, a loud sneeze came from under the bed. It had been torture for him to hold that in. He poked out his muzzle with a whine. He didn't like Lord Grundle either. He was positively sure that Coyote didn't care for him too. "You should go while you can," Sonia said as she opened the window for him. The rains of the previous night had ended. The world was fresh, clean, and still a bit wet. "You'll get caught if you stay here too long." Ezra pulled himself from his hiding place. He shook himself off and peered back at it. He suddenly wondered how he managed to fit under there in the first place. Quickly, he abandoned such curiosity in order to make his escape. For now. Little did he realize it would be the last time for quite some time that he'd see Sonia. Lord Grundle sat at his desk. He had made sure that his office was comfortable if he was to deal with the commoners here all day. He needed them, yet frowned down upon them. Without them, he'd have no claim to his superiority. Still, to have them come to him with their nonsense, it made him rather impatient. What did they expect him to do about their troubles? Everyone always wanted to use his connection to God for themselves. How pitiful. A knock came to the door, and Lord Grundle bid his assistant to enter. "What is it?" "Your lordship, Homer and Esther Turn are here," the assistant said. "They say that it's very important. If I may be so bold to say so myself, I dared to agree." "Is that so?" Lord Grundle grumbled. "Well, if that is the case, then show them in. We'll just see how important it really is." The assistant gave a nod and ducked back out. Within moments, Homer and Esther, with Sonia straggling behind, approached the desk. Lord Grundle didn't even bother to grace them with a glance. "Your lordship," Uncle Homer began, "behold a miracle." Both stepped aside to reveal a lovely young Sonia. "A miracle? What sort of miracle would that—" He lifted his gaze and fell completely out of his chair. Both Homer and Esther gasped with a start. Lord Grundle flung himself onto the desk and pulled back up enough to sit back in his seat. He stared in disbelief, his hat a little crooked. "Miss Sonia Turn?" "Yes, sir, Lord Grundle," she replied with a curtsy. "You're alive!" "God has brought her back to us after so many months," Aunt Esther boldly stated, as she brought her hands together. "She has survived those months in the woods, and she has returned unharmed. She even held a coyote at bay." "Well, actually," Sonia attempted to correct, but it was no use. "Amazing!" Lord Grundle sighed. "She has a special gift." "We agree," Homer nodded. "She is truly blessed. We believe that she was chosen by God for a grand purpose." "We thought that perhaps," Esther added, "since you are also chosen, that perhaps God had meant for her to be your bride." "Bride?" Lord Grundle was obviously shocked. He stammered as he tried to grasp some sort of sense that he could use. He looked Sonia over. Well, she was pretty, and she would grow into a nice woman in a few years, when she would be of age. She would be sure to bear him children. If she indeed had such power as to ward off a coyote, it would prove beneficial to him. Oh, the ultimate win! A Grundle and a Turn. He would be able to claim Turn's grand heritage as his own, and manipulate it to fit his grand image. The village would truly be his to command. On top of it all, Sonia was very young and easily subdued. He could mold her into the woman he wanted. This may not have been such a bad thing after all. "Of course," he finally said. "You are correct, dear lady. That is exactly what God wants." "What?" Sonia gasped. Lord Grundle got to his feet. "I wish to take her and train her to be a proper bride of such a religious status." "You're taking me away?" "You shall live a life of luxury. When you are of age, our children shall be doubly blessed." Sonia stammered and sputtered as she tried to find some words. There were none to be found. Too much was going on in such a small amount of time. She was truly overwhelmed. But any attempts to speak for herself would have likely been in vain anyway. The matter had been settled without her.